The Zodiac Files, the most legendary in Zodiac content. Today is a show that I've been looking to do for quite some time, and obviously December 20th. Obviously, rest in peace to David Faraday. Put my seat up here. David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen. And so obviously it's December 20th, and this event occurred December 20th, 1968. So I see you guys going crazy in the chat. We got Mark Hewitt in the house. He's not the damn Zodiac. That's good progress. Let's get that out of the way. You know what I mean? It was dicey there for a second. Looks like they're asking Sandy some questions in there, and it doesn't look like any questions for me. So, like I said, I've been waiting to tackle this show for a long time and get somebody who knows this well. I really like Richard Grinnell's work, so we'll probably talk about some alternate theories. I know Gorilla Train has looked into the Lake Herman Road extensively. So that's basically where we're at. Shout out to everybody who came through in the chat. Captain J, Sandy, everybody else in there. Looks like Pixie's in there. I thought you had work, Pixie. So, we're going to get popped off. So, guys, usual stuff. Respect the guests. I know how the tone went the last show, but that's not the approach we're taking this time. So it's all good, man. It's all good. You get all the UK people. It's going on VOD immediately after we're done going live. So just catch it on the replay. Like, sub, share. And without further ado, we're going to bring the guest on, author Ray Grant, friend of the channel. Welcome back, sir.
Yeah, I mentioned to you, I had oral surgery on Wednesday, which is where this bruise came from. I had an implant stuck into my left jaw, and it was fine for like 2 or 3 days, but just in the last 24 hours, this bruise is showing up. So,
good, man. Ray,
like
the
I
trooper.
said, no one in the comments section punched me.
Yeah, Ray the trooper is showing up with his battle wounds. I mean, you could have just said that you had oral surgery, and we probably could have put it off a week or two for you. But
well, it's December 20th, so I think we want to respect that.
Absolutely.
Why does Steve Allen think I'm a Fruit Loop? Hey, Steve. Steve, I can read your chat stuff. So why don't you come forward, tell us who you are, and explain why I'm a Fruit Loop? Okay?
Yeah, I don't.
The only problem with that is Steve doesn't have any balls. So I mean, what's he gonna do?
Right.
You
I don't see that one. Just respect the guest in the chat, guys. You know what I mean? Like I said, the comments section is one thing. If Ray's been warned, if he goes into the comments, he knows what's good down there. It's total war zone.
They can fire away. I'll fire back. That's no problem.
For sure. But I run the live. So
why does Sandy think I hate her? That's why I don't hate Sandy.
Not sure, Sandy. I
think
we're the few, the proud. Oh, that's another thing too. So I had this big RIP to the Tom Voigt Tappa Talk forum announcement I was going to make, but as it turns out, Ray, I'm sure you've heard that's not exactly the case, that it's just been more privatized, but it's not actually going away. All the pre-existing content's going to stay, but I thought it was getting totally locked down, and then if you guys have caught up with the new updates with Tom, you can head over to zodiackiller.com. I think that's fairly newsworthy.
Can you post comments again?
Yeah, I actually posted the show in there, but you have to be part of the last elite few that Tom respects. And being you're the man that Tom declared needed an interview, I'm giving you that interview now. So I don't know what you did for Tom to think so highly of you.
Well, I'm the number one donator to his website and have been for the last, 15 years. I'm the number one.
Sense.
I'm the number one donator to Ned DeHaan. I'm the number one donator to Zodiac Killer Expert Series. I'm the number one donator to, I don't know if I'm number one to yours, Ross, but I'm up there.
Pretty close. I think you are, actually, to be honest.
I might be number one. So, I mean, all this stuff about what a bad guy I am is bullshit. Okay? Because I
feel it.
No one supports more people in the Zodiac Killer online community than I do. That's just a fact.
I would agree, but I gotta say that I don't agree with what the Zodiac Killer channel did to you, because you paid to have those last two interviews
Exactly.
unransomed, and then they deleted the
took 'em all
channel. So
down.
I gotta say they should have at least sent you the content for you to repost or whatever you chose to do
Well,
after you
like
paid
I
that fee. You
said,
know what I mean?
those guys pulled their disappearing act. I don't know.
Yeah.
That was good content, whether you agree with it or not.
Mm,
It was valuable content, and
sure.
they took it down.
No, there was a lot of really good interviews I liked on there. I mean, there were some that I thought weren't on par with the others, but for the most part, it was a good series. But yeah, that was unfortunate.
And don't
But
forget, I did that even though I wasn't on the series myself.
yeah,
That
it's true.
happened during the pandemic, and I couldn't get my throat injections for my spasmodic dysphonia, so I couldn't talk. So if I talk like when I'm not getting injections, I sound like RFK Jr. We both have the same thing. It's spasmodic
Uh,
dysphonia. So.
got you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Shout out to RFK Jr., my guy. Zodiac Killer solved. Where would you like people to pick it up, Ray? Is it over on Amazon?
Well, right now there's only the ebook version of the book. I just published a new novel.
Nice. What do you got? Clockwork JFK.
And
I didn't know you were a JFK guy.
it's one of my other areas of expertise is the JFK assassination. So when I put this in paperback, I said, I had to put Zodiac Killer Solved back in paperback. The only problem with it is it looks like a textbook, and if you buy it as an ebook, it's only $3. If you buy this version, it's going to be like $25-$30. So
Gotcha.
I didn't want people to get ripped off.
Yeah, some people like the hard copy for the collection. You never know.
Yeah, some people won't. They refuse to use like a Kindle version. They have to have the actual book in front of them. So
I'm one of those people. I have to turn the page. I can't.
like
I can't
Ross.
read it. I can't read it digitally. Sorry, guys. I can't do it. I haven't. Very few things I have read as a digital copy. I just can't do it.
Okay, what do you want to talk about?
Let's pop off Lake Herman Road. We're not going to get into any of the fringe things, but Ray has a great understanding of the timeline and the witnesses. So we've got the turnout, and we've got we've got the I'm guessing that was the West Bank and the East Bank there. So
if you've been reading the Gorilla Train material, there's some like fantastic information, and I printed some of it out. And one of the things I did was I redid the timeline for Pierre Bidou. I think if you read the Gorilla Train material, you're going to realize that there actually was an arrestee in the back seat of the Benicia PD patrol car that they were when they were driving up. When they drove past the turnout, they had Charles Borzich in their back seat. So the next question is, logically, where would they have taken him? And the answer to that is, let me see. If you assume that they were like passing, let's say where they were passing the turnout at 10:35 p.m. and they were taking the arrestee to the Solano County Jail, which is where you would normally, Benicia PD would use that jail to put people, behind bars. So that would have been a drive of about.
Didn't he say they brought back the contraband to Benicia PD though?
Well, yeah, but that was to the Benicia PD headquarters. Solano County Jail is actually it's at 500 Union Avenue in Fairfield, California, and it's about that time of night. It would be about a 25-minute drive. Okay, so if you go from 11 o'clock to when the dispatch came over when they're pulling into the Benicia PD lot,
Yep.
it would have been like 11:28. So you can make that timeline fit all of the times, and moving backwards, it gets you to where they're passing the turnout at approximately 10:35. Okay, so we
Okay.
know that what Badu and Armenta actually did was they arrested Charles Borzich at the cottage at Lake Herman. They would have passed the, driven to the jail. They would have passed the turnout about 10:35, gotten to Solano County Jail about 11 o'clock, and then the trip from the jail to Benicia BD is another 25, 26 minutes. So that fits the timeline. They would have been pulling in at 11:28 p.m., which is what Pierre Badu says. He says we were pulling into the lot when the dispatch came over the radio. So basically, what that does is it nails down the timeline of the movement of Badu and Armenta with the arrestee, Charles Borzich. So it's just one more example of where we do actually know what happened on Lake Herman Road that night. You can go back and reconstruct where people were at a given time, as long as you're not making it up on the way like Mr. Grinnell does. But
Ooh, shot fired. Okay,
well,
what's Grinnell making up?
Well, here's what. Let's go back to, if Charles Borzich was actually arrested that night, he would have gone with Badu and Armenta, since it's unlikely they'd have a backup for a pot drug bust. Okay, when you look at the people who were giving testimony of what happened that night, you have Helen Axe, who I've already discussed the problems with some of her testimony.
Yeah, let's get into more of that.
Between the years of 1990 and 1998, she was arrested 8 separate times for writing bad checks. Okay, Peggy Ewer. Peggy. This is all from Gorilla Train's material. Peggy Ewer was employed. Peggy was employed at Ed's Drive-In Restaurant in 1968, but lived much of her adult life as a grifter. She had been arrested several times for swindling unsuspecting people and businesses out of money. Peggy was arrested and jailed for 9 months on welfare fraud in 1975. In 1978, she was charged with failure to provide rental payments that she was paid to collect on apartment properties. In 1979, she was again arrested, this time on felony grand theft, when she gained the trust of an elderly woman in her care and bilked her out of her life savings. Okay? So we're not necessarily dealing with somebody who's a straight shooter there. That's why I say, with the exception of her confrontation with the hunters, we can pretty much throw out everything that Peggy Ewer said. She did not see the Faraday Rambler in the turnout, and she didn't see the kids inside the Rambler. What we do know is that, and this is something that Richard Grinnell actually corrected me on, and I ended up agreeing with him, which is that he said that in my book, I never mentioned the fact that Robert Conley saw the Faraday Rambler on the west bank of the turnout. Okay, and the question is, if the Rambler was on the east side of the turnout, let me see if I can move that over. Why would David Faraday back up to the west bank? Doesn't make sense. If you're going to leave, you would either just reverse back out onto the road if you're going to go east, or you could just like turn around and go west on Lake Herman Road. But there wouldn't be any logistical reason for doing this, you know? So,
Right, but isn't that Connolly says he saw it moved? So what are
well,
you getting at?
Conley, I'm sure the police challenged Conley and they said, wait a minute. We have information. It was from Peggy Ewer that the car was already in that position in the turnout. And Robert Conley, if you read the police report, he actually insisted that the car was in this position. And what I'm saying is, I believe what actually happened was the Zodiacs were moving the car around, and they had just pulled in to the turnout and saw Conley coming up the hill. So they stopped the car, turned the lights out, and Conley drives by. He doesn't see anybody inside the Rambler, and but that's when they were.
Was it Connolly talking about walking by, Ray? Like I think a couple things are misconstrued here, and also
the person who walked by was Frank Gasser.
Okay, but they're hunting together, correct?
Right, Gasser.
Yeah,
Gasser came out of the brush on the hillside. He walked through the gate number 10, and then he shone his light into the white Chevy Impala. You notice the tail fins on the Impala. What that tells you is it's the 1959 version. Chevrolet in 1960, when they made the Impala, it was more of it was more leveled off in the back. And then I have a sister who was born in 1942. And in 1964, she bought a Chevrolet Chevelle 500. And all of the Chevrolet sedans looked identical by 63, 64. They were basically had this very boxy design. So when you got this is the convertible version, but all of the Impalas from 1959 had that tail fin, and they had, a stripe along the side. So the point I'm trying to make here is that, for example, when Stan, the 14-year-old out on Columbus Parkway, saw the Chevy Impala pulling off, what he saw was what makes the Impala different from all the other cars, which is that tail fin. Okay. But he says he saw a 63, but the 63s, like I said, all look like all the other Chevys. So I think what he actually saw was the 59. And remember, now we have two people. We have William Crow and we have Stan, the 14-year-old on Columbus Parkway, who said that they saw two people inside this car.
I don't remember Stan. Is Stan in their police reports?
Stan's in the police report. I think it's page 28. I'm not sure. So
I forgot about Stan. We got a Ray Grant fan in the house, Moltano, €5, I think that is. Hi, Ray. I hope you're well. Nice to see you again after your last debate with Ross and Richard. I got your book just 2 days ago. Keep up the good work.
Wow.
Captain J, witnesses said
thanks for your business.
Suspect was an Impala. Said any known Zodiac suspect drive an Impala at the time? I mean, you could read yellow cover and you're going to get told that ALA had every car that existed. So not that I know of. But we can keep on trucking here, Ray. Go ahead.
One of the things you have to remember is most of this stuff, any investigative work that would have been done like decades after the fact, because they didn't have, back in 68, they didn't have an internet. They didn't have the police report up that people could read. So now it's like somebody reads in the police report that there was what William Crow called a light colored Chevrolet, and what Gasser and Conley and Bingo Wesner all said. And again, remember, Gasser walked right up to the car. and he shone a
Yeah.
flashlight into it. Okay.
Yep.
So they all identified it as a white Chevy Impala. Okay. Now, again, why people would park a car in a turnout where it's pitch dark, there's no lighting whatsoever, and then leave the car and just walk off into the brush for like half an hour, I haven't figured out yet, unless they were up to no good. Okay, so the fact that we have this bizarre event in the same turnout where two people were murdered, I don't understand why it doesn't make more of an impact on people.
I mean, I think it does, but I think a lot of it just kind of gets lost in the minutia. I mean, let's frame up for them because we kind of just dove right in. Let's give them that like the context that Betty and David are out there, not their first date, but I guess like the kind of first official date.
It was
where
their
Betty,
first date.
Not according to Sharon, they'd been dating for weeks secretly, which is Betty's best friend.
Well, I don't see how they could have done that since they didn't meet until December 14th.
Not according to people that knew this. So you're saying the Pythian decoration of that castle is the 14th? I don't think they met at that, Ray. They met at school, right?
Well, they couldn't have met at school because they
went to different schools. But they met, I don't know, church or something, I guess. But I don't know. Lifeline, Druser, jump in on that one. From what Sharon said, they had known each other for weeks and just hadn't told their parents about it. You know what I mean? So, and that's supposed.
I don't think so.
Okay, I mean,
I think they met December 14th, and then what happened was, David was going over to Hogan High at lunchtime every day.
Right, that's what I mean.
So, I mean, he was campaigning pretty hard for
no doubt. And he was driving her home. Supposedly, he was driving her home for 2 weeks before, right. You know what I mean, this event. So, but it's all good. I mean, we don't got to get stuck on the minutia. I'm just trying to frame it up. So, supposedly, just give us like the timeline, like before they get to the turnout, right? Because I think the audience will find that interesting. There's kind of some missing time there. They're supposed to go to the Christmas event, right? The whatever it was at the.
Yeah, you want me to go back to the beginning?
Yeah, I mean, we'll get back into the gasser and the sightings because I want to go through that as well. I just want to frame it up so they understand that, you know what I mean? David goes to Betty's house, right? She introduces him to the parents. They're supposed to be, I think they give him an 11 p.m. timeline to get Betty back. They're supposed to go out to the Christmas, whatever it is, event. And there's some disagreement that whether or not they even go to that. In other words, there's no witnesses that recall them going where they said they were going to be. Is that your understanding?
The police report does not have them going to the Christmas event. And the Christmas event, apparently, going by what the police say and going by what, Mr. VTS Choir over on Reddit has said, the Christmas event actually took place on December 13th. So it was like a week earlier. And why David and Betty Lou told their parents that's where they were going, I don't know. The assumption, if you read the police report, the next place they went to was Sharon's house. And they were at Sharon's house from 8:20 until 9 o'clock. Okay. So about 40 minutes. And her mother, Sharon's mother, had the impression that they were going to try to drive to San Francisco. But her mother also said that she didn't think they could make it to San Francisco and then drive back in time for the 11 o'clock curfew. Okay.
Right. Absolutely. So, and also Sharon tells, like, when David said he was going to like ask Betty to go steady or whatever and like where to do it or whatever, Sharon says she told him Blue Rock Springs, which is interestingly enough because you have the San Francisco reference right there and the Blue Rock Springs all within the Lake Herman Road story, you know what I mean, which is pretty interesting. Again,
I believe that what actually happened was Sharon saw them drive away from her house and David did. And the other thing is, we can be reasonably sure that David and Betty Lou never hugged. No, David, remember, David's my age. I was born April 29th, 1951. David was born October 2nd, 1951. By the way, that's the same birthday as Sting from the Police. He was born.
Nice. Good
So,
stuff.
but the point being, I can remember what it was like back in my senior year in high school, and what was typical behavior back then. And David was very old fashioned. He had told Sharon that he wanted to give Betty Lou his class ring and ask her to go steady. That sounds like something more from the 1950s. I don't remember, much of that when I was at Taylor Alderdice in 68, 69. It was, going steady was a little bit old fashioned. But
Right.
the point to be made was David asked Sharon if she thought that Betty Lou would accept his ring. So what that tells me, and that would have been Thursday night, what that tells me is that they hadn't hugged and kissed yet. Because if they had, he wouldn't have any doubts about whether she'd accept his ring, right? So
I don't know. That's that's a tough one to nail down. But yeah, I mean, I can see it. I can see where you're going.
So anyway, they go to Sharon's house. They leave Sharon's house around 9 o'clock. I believe what happened is they drove then to Blue Rock Springs Park, which is what Betty Lou suggested. They didn't want to go to, I want to say it's St. Catherine's on Tennessee Street, which was it's basically private property. And there were kids who would go there and, hang out in their cars. But David didn't want to do that because they might get run off by the police. So Sharon
Right. They said the same about Blue Rock Springs.
Well, yeah, but Blue Rock Springs Park at least is public. So Sharon suggested Blue Rock Springs Park, and she says that's where I assumed that they went. So they go to Blue Rock Springs Park. They are abducted by the Zodiacs, some circa 9:05, 9:10. Remember, David still had the ring in his hand when his body was looked at by Russ Butterback in the hospital at whenever it was at 12:05 p.m. So he never gave the ring to Betty Lou. So we have to assume that David was interrupted before he could do that. I think what happened was you had the Faraday Rambler and you had the Zodiacs in the white Chevy Impala, and they just made their way along Lake Herman Road between 9 o'clock and 9:30. And then what happened was William Crowe gets on the road at 9:30. The Zodiacs put Betty Lou and David in this holding area, which is maybe about 50 feet east of the turnout. And what their intent was to park the white Chevy Impala in the turnout to discourage other people from parking there. And what actually happened was William Crowe comes along in his sports car, and when they pull out and they're getting ready to put the Chevy Impala into the turnout, Crowe's sports car is there. So they kind of drive by Crowe's car and stop and turn around and start chasing him. And they chase Crowe off the road, and then they come back to the turnout and park the white Chevy Impala there, which is why when Bingo Wesner comes out through the gate and Robert Conley drives by at about 10 p.m. and they see each other, they also see the white Chevy Impala. And then 20 minutes later, Frank Gasser comes out of the brush and he shines his flashlight into the Impala. Okay. And so when Helen Axe drives by at 10:15 and 10:30, and she comes back at 10:30, she says the car that she saw was the Rambler, but it wasn't the Rambler. It was it was actually the white Chevy Impala because that's the car that was there. Um, it's logical that the car that Helen X saw would be the Rambler because that's what was in the news and it had been shown on, news broadcasts and anything. I don't have a problem with anything Helen X says. The only issue I have with her testimony is that she misidentifies the car. The car that she saw was actually the Impala, not the Rambler. So that puts the Impala in the turnout circa 10 o'clock or so. And approximately 10:30 or so, the Zodiacs have a police scanner and they know that Benicia PD is coming along Lake Herman Road. And if they see a car parked in the turnout, they're going to run them off. Okay. So the Zodiacs, two of the Zodiacs get into the car, make a left on Lake Herman Road after Helen X comes by, and they drive out, and they are seen on the western end of the road by Stan. He sees the blue Oldsmobile, which I assume was Helen X's car, her sailor boyfriend's car, and he sees the Impala with two people inside it, and then the Benicia PD with Pierre Bedeau and Steve Armenta drive past the turnout circa 10:35 p.m. They have to put Charles Borzich in jail, so they drive him to Solano County Jail, 500 Union Avenue in Fairfield. That's about a 25-minute drive. 11 o'clock, they drop Borzich off. Then they drive to Benicia PD. And if you do that sequence, everything makes sense. If, on the other hand, you do what Richard Grinnell does, and you say, well, Pierre Bedeau went from the turnout to Benicia PD, that's only an 8-minute drive, okay? So what was he doing? Whenever you want to say, if you want to say he pulled into the Benicia lot at 11:28, you subtract 8 minutes from that, and you've got 11:20. And the only problem with that timeline is the kids were already shot by that time. Okay. So why would Benicia PD just drive past a couple bodies like lying in the turnout? It doesn't make sense. We know that Benicia PD was doing something between the time they passed the turnout and they pulled into the Benicia PD lot. And as I said, I think what they were doing was they were dropping off the arrestee. Okay, so then the hunters come back from being on the hillside and shooting at raccoons circa 10:55. Peggy Ure and her husband come along. They get into a fight because Conley and Gasser were shining their flashlights into their car, and Peggy Ure grabs her gun off the rear seat and points it at them, which is a felony, and says, "My gun is bigger than yours." Okay. Well, here's the question: if Peggy Ure didn't do that, how did the hunters know that she had a gun? Okay.
Well, so it's all inconsistent, right? Because she says she said that, right? And then they interview Gaster.
No, the hunters say she said that. She denies that she said that.
And she says she didn't say that, right? And the other way around.
To use a Rossism here, Peggy was a grifter. Okay. Peggy's not the most reliable. And normally, I don't like to characterize witnesses as being good or bad. I prefer to take their testimony at face value until they give me a reason not to do that. But in Peggy Ure's case, I mean, she says she saw the kids when her car's headlights shone on the Faraday Rambler in the turnout. The only problem is when you're traveling west on Lake Herman Road, your headlights don't shine into the turnout because when you're coming down that hill, the car, you're coming down the hill on Lake Herman Road, the car is pointed away from the turnout. And you can see this, for example, in Tom Voigt's video with Ed Neal from 2004. I'm sure you've seen it, where they're in the turnout and a police car drives by and pulls in next to them and asks Tom and Ed what they're doing in the turnout. And if you look at that video, you will notice that at no time is Ed Neal, who is standing where the Rambler would have been, at no time is he illuminated by the passing police car. And the reason for that is that the cars coming down the hill are facing away from the turnout. So what Peggy Ure says isn't true. What she says about the hunters isn't true. Okay. My guess, although I originally believed, and I disagreed with Richard about, I thought Peggy Ure was probably right about where the car was. I now agree with Richard, and I think that what Robert Conley saw was correct, and Peggy Ure just never saw the Faraday Rambler.
Yeah, no doubt. We got a Druser question here. Ray, do you know anything more about Sandy offered about Sharon's boyfriend being a drug dealer who was going to join them on the San Francisco trip but was late?
That is what the police report says, although it doesn't say that that he was a drug dealer, but it does say that Sharon had a boyfriend, and the reason they didn't go, one of the reasons they didn't go to San Francisco was that he didn't show up. So if he was a drug dealer, that's news to me, but I don't have evidence to the contrary either. He may have been.
Dion Walker, Sharon told Tom they'd be seeing each other in secret for a couple of months. This is what I was getting at, Ray. So, I mean, it's
don't think so.
I think it's weeks. I was going to say weeks.
I don't think so. And if he had been seeing her for weeks, that does not explain the behavior of Ricky Burton, because Ricky Burton was walking with her in the school hallways. And then when he found out about David that Friday, he walked up and confronted David face to face in Hogan High. So wouldn't that have happened a lot sooner if David had been, seeing?
Yeah, but maybe he was just dropping her off or picking her up and not going inside. You know what I mean? So it's tough.
David was inside the high school.
Well, no, I know that. I'm just saying maybe that was the first. I don't know. Anyway, Kathy Hayward asked you, what about processing time at the jail?
Well, that's actually a really good point. If you go by my timeline, they would not have been at the jail very long. You're talking maybe, I don't know, 5 minutes at the most. Okay. But I don't know, my experience with police when they're dropping somebody off, like into, I've had friends who were police, worked for the Pittsburgh police, and I had a friend who was who worked for the Pittsburgh police for 20 years, and then he worked for the Attorney General's office in Pennsylvania. They tried to get me involved in the DC sniper case because they knew I was in Mensa, basically, or my friend knew that I was in Mensa, and he asked me. This would have been around 2002 or so, and apparently there was like a sniper's website on the dark internet, and I told them, well, I'm not really, I don't really have any expertise on that, but my impression of police is when they're dropping somebody off in in a holding cell or at a jail or what have you, it's pretty cut and dried. It's not, it doesn't, I mean, they would get processed at the jail, but the arresting officers wouldn't necessarily stick around to do that. Okay. But again, that is a good point.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go into some more timelines. So 9 p.m. we got Robert Connolly and Frank Gasser notice a 5960 white Chevrolet Impala in the turnout and an unidentified truck exiting gate 10 while heading to the Marshall Ranch. Any disagreement with those?
I totally disagree with that. Look, this is Richard Grinnell at his misinformation best, where misinformation turns into disinformation. Okay,
Sure.
he refuses to accept the possibility that Robert Conley could just have been wrong about the time. I don't dispute anything else Robert Conley says. The only thing I dispute is that he arrived at 9 o'clock. He didn't arrive at 9 o'clock. He arrived at 10 o'clock. And the reason for that is that if you don't have them arriving, if you don't have them, Bingo and Robert seeing each other, then you've got this musical chairs set up. Okay. What you have is let's walk ourselves through what Grinnell says happened. See if it makes any sense to you. Robert Conley arrives at 9 o'clock. Okay. Robert Conley sees this is the wrong card. Yeah. Robert Conley sees the white Chevy Impala against the face forward against the south fence, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's 9 o'clock. But when William Crow comes by at 9:30, 9:35, he doesn't see a car. So that means
Yeah, I was going to mention that.
the white Impala had to leave the turnout. Okay. And then Crow sees the light colored Chevrolet chase him out of the turnout. And then at 10 p.m. again, Bingo Wesner sees the white Chevy Impala facing the south fence. Okay. So the white Impala is there at 9 o'clock. It leaves for whatever, 20 minutes, 15 minutes, and then it's back in the same space again at 10 o'clock. Okay. But wait, there's more. Then this car leaves the turnout and Helen Axe comes by. And now it's 10:15, and Helen Axe sees let me move over here so I can do this. Helen Axe sees the Faraday Rambler there in the same position.
So what you're referring to is when...
Wait a minute, Ross. Let me finish this.
Go for it.
So now the Rambler has to leave so that Frank Gasser can come out of the brush and shine his flashlight at 10:20 into the white Chevy Impala. Then the white Chevy Impala has to leave, and then the Rambler has to pull back in so that Helen Axe sees the Rambler, this time facing outward, at 10:30. Okay. Then Pierre Bidou and Steve Armenta drive by, and they don't see any cars in the turnout at circa 10:35. Okay. Then if you want to go through Peggy Ewer's testimony, we can do that. But the point is, all of this movement of the cars can very easily be explained if you assume two things. Number one, you assume that Robert Conley actually arrived at 10 o'clock, not at 9 o'clock that night. And Conley's driving by on Lake Herman Road, and he sees a truck coming out of the gate. Meanwhile, Bingo Wesner is coming out of the gate at 10 p.m., and he sees a red pickup truck with wood sideboards driving by on Lake Herman Road. That sure sounds like they both saw each other to me, and that's the assumption that Solano County Sheriff's Office said. And again, both of them saw the white Chevy Impala there, which is what Frank Gasser said. And we can fix that fractured timeline by doing two things: assuming Conley was wrong about when he arrived at the road, which is more like 10 o'clock, and also assuming that Helen Axe was just misidentified the car. She thought she saw the Faraday Rambler. What she actually saw was the white Chevy Impala. Okay, and the thing is that well, I don't know what point I was going to make. I was going to make a point about.
Well, it's all good. So when she says that she doesn't see them in the car, you're referring to when her headlights went across, and then they police found the seat
No,
down.
I think she didn't see them.
Right, but what I'm saying is, again, what Helen Axe, whichever witness that is, says that their headlights went across and they didn't see anyone in the car. The police said that because the seats were down and they were laying in the prone position. So they were laying down in the seats and weren't seen in the car. You know what I mean? That's just one thing that came out.
I can't disprove every little projected detail that people come forward with. If you want to say that they weren't seen because the seat was at a 45-degree angle, that's fine. But then you have to explain why David still had the ring. If they were smooching in the car, wouldn't Betty Lou have had the ring already? He said he was
because right, it's common sense because they got interrupted before he gave it to her. I mean, that's not rocket science on that one, right?
Wouldn't he
had it in his hand, and then Zodiac,
Wouldn't he have asked her to give her the ring, go steady, and then they start smooching? Doesn't that make more sense than?
Sure, but how do you know he didn't get interrupted right before? I mean, you have no idea what time that bullet came through the back window and just interrupted the whole thing. He could have literally be saying, "Will you be my?" And then if you start getting shot at, he's going to finish the sentence. He obviously got out of the car to confront or was ordered out of the car to confront the individual that comes up possibly in that white car that we think is the Impala.
Assuming Robert Conley saw the car being pulled into the turnout, why would David pull into the turnout at 11:05 p.m., which is 5 minutes past the curfew? And keep in mind, to get back to Betty Lou's house would have taken them an additional 10 minutes or so. Okay.
Sure.
Plus, we know that Betty Lou's bladder was full. Okay. She was basically bursting for a pee. So why would she say, "Yeah, go ahead, David. Yeah, let's park out here." Even further.
No, it's a great point. It's a great point.
Where the hell were they before they went out to the turnout? And why would they do that? If they weren't disturbed where they originally were, let's say it was Blue Rock Springs, what motive would they have to drive all the way out to the turnout, knowing that doing that means that on their first official date, whatever you want to call it, they were going to make a very bad impression on her parents. Okay.
Sure.
Doesn't make any sense. And
that's how I started off. I agree.
David Faraday was an Eagle Scout. He was like Mr. Be Prepared. I'm sure he was really good at being on time and everything else.
Yeah, clearly something went wrong. I just want to correct my man Jay. I mean, I like your theory, but that's not the case with Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday, mostly because of the fact that Betty was a Grand Royal Bride of the Primavera Council, number 132, Pythian Sunshine Girls. And she was also a member of the Christian Science Church. David, on the other hand, was, Eagle Scout championship level wrestler, as Ray said. And he was also a member of the Knights of Dunamis. What was his church affiliation, right? He was it wasn't the same as hers, but
I don't have it in front. I think he was Presbyterian. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think that's right. Actually, yeah, he was an active member of the Presbyterian Church. So, in this case, Jay, these are like devout Christians, so it doesn't really hold up for the Lake Herman Road crime. But a lot of people say, maybe the Lake Herman Road crime's not Zodiac. Of course, Zodiac doesn't take credit for it until after Blue Rock Springs. I mean, if it wasn't so similar to Blue Rock Springs, you know what I mean, there wouldn't be as much to go off of. In terms of MO, there's just a lot missing on the timeline here. Yeah, this is correct though. Let's keep going on our timeline here. So just for sake of argument, Ray, you can push back where you need to push back, but 9:30 to 10. If you don't like Grinnell, William Crow and his girlfriend are in the Lake Herman Road area. They park in the turnout for a brief time to test the motor of the sports car. Crow contacts law enforcement, reports a car followed them out of the turnout. He originally reports 2 Caucasian men in the car, but later thought it was only one, whom he described as a man with short hair and glasses. The report names the car as possibly a blue Valiant. Crow later says that the officer may have added that part, saying instead that the car may have been a 4-door light-colored Chevy. The report states that the car never gained on him, yet his account changed over time. Years later, writing to Voight, it almost forced him off the road and appeared to be moving toward making contact to Howard Davis. So as much as I like Crow, Ray, I think he is reputable, but his story changes 3 times. He essentially gives 3 different versions to Tom, Howard, and Morph. And they all kind of vary.
Well, I think the reason, Richard Grinnell's there. You need to get my
hello, Richie.
Before arguing against
the timeline you posted on Voight's site claiming it was mine was not what my article said.
Well, present your timeline then.
Ruh-roh. I think I'm reading some of it in my notes.
The world might come to an end if Richard Grinnell comes out with an actual case theory. Time might come to a stop.
He's presented multiple theories on Lake Herman Road on his website.
Theory. He hasn't presented a case theory. A case theory is what I just went through with you, where you go down and you explain not just the timeline, but why those specific things are happening.
Sure. I mean, I like that you have something you believe, Ray, but it's a little bit too off kilter with the following around the cars and there's how many people drive by, Ray? Is it 5, 6? So I just don't buy this thing that the Zodiacs follow them from Blue Rock Springs and then hide them in the gatehouse. It's just a little too much for me. Let's just stick to this timeline, and then you can push back on the points you don't like.
You know what I could do if I had it in for Ross, and
what could you do?
Are you in New Hampshire now?
No, but I'm from New Hampshire.
Okay, well, let's say you're in New Hampshire, and I work for the New Hampshire DMV. Okay, I can locate you whenever I want, because if you have access to people's personal information and you know what car they're driving, all you have to do is drive out to their address, look around for their car, and trust me, wherever the car is, 95% of the time, that's where that person is going to be. So UPenn had this, very easy way of locating people, which is that all you really need is to know what car they're driving, and they're going to be in the vicinity. Even at Lake Berryessa, I suspect what actually happened was Michael O'Hare located Brian Hardnell's car. And
Right, we're getting off subject here. Let's stick to the lake.
I'm just saying.
I get it. No, I like the point, but yeah, Zodiac as a DMV worker, it's too far of a bridge for me. Let's get back on the timeline.
UPenn was a DMV worker. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, so I think there's a DMV connection, but we're just not at that yet. It doesn't come till long after the last Zodiac letters. So, William Crow, we're simply talking about. Let's just stick to this. You push back on what you don't like. 10 p.m. Bingo Wesker's tending his sheep in the field, notices a white Chevy Impala in the turnout. 10:15, Helen Axe spots the Rambler in the turnout while heading to Benicia. 10:30, Helen Axe spots the Rambler in the turnout while heading back to Vallejo. 10:55, Peggy and Homer Yore head west in the direction of Vallejo to the Marshall Ranch and spot the Rambler on the east bank. David in the driver's seat with Betty's head on his shoulder. This is what I was referring to. 11 p.m., Peggy and Homer Yore leave the Marshall Ranch past the turnout heading to Benicia, yet again noticing the Rambler on the east bank. Dave and Betty in the same position. 11:05, Connolly, Gasser leave the ranch past the turnout to Benicia, noticing the Rambler on the west bank facing south. 11:08, unidentified vehicle passes the turnout heading to Vallejo. 11:14, James Owen passes the turnout heading to Benicia, noticed the Rambler on the east bank and another vehicle on its right, and did not see anyone in the cars or around them. I mean, that's probably the most interesting point. Other than 1/4 mile out, Owen thought he heard a shot as his radio was on lower volume. And then we get to Stella Medeiros, whatever her name is. You don't agree with all that, I take.
Well, 11:14 is way too late for James Owen, because if you start from his address, who's Mini Drive, I think it's, 1735 Mini Drive, and you assume that he was going about at the speed limit on Lake Herman Road, he would have passed the turnout about 11:09, okay, not 11:14. Same thing with Stella Medeiros. If you assume she was driving, and as I said, I'm going with the 2.7 miles, not the 1.5 miles, because whatever the Borges property was that she was at, the cops went with her, and they did the timings and they did the distance. So I'm assuming she was 2.7 miles from the turnout when she pulled out of her, her residence with her mother and her, I guess her daughter. And so she would have gone by circa 11:14, 30, 11:15, thereabouts. And all of that fits. If you follow through with the timing, Graysmith says that she was driving at 60 to 70 miles per hour into Benicia. The Enco station, if that's where she ran into the cops, Graysmith says it was 11:19 p.m. The timing for them getting back to the turnout, and this would have been after she explained to them what she had seen, and they decide, okay, let's roll with it. That they pulled in circa 11:25 p.m. and then the dispatch call would have come over the police radio at 11:28 p.m. So all of those times make sense. What I see most of the time from people like Grinnell and is that the timings, for whatever reason, are much later than they actually would have been.
Well, he just agreed with you that 11:09, 11:10, James Owen, Stella, about 11:14. Right. So this is what I have in my Jedi Master notes. 11:20, we could move it up from, we could move Owen slightly up, but 11:20, Stella Borges Medeiros passes the turnout, notices Betty Lou Jensen on the turnout floor. Stella Borges Medeiros flags down Captain Daniel Pita at Benicia Enco Gas and alerts him after driving 60, 70 miles per hour. Her car clock's noticed to be fast. Captain Daniel Pita arrives at the turnout 11:28. Can we agree on that, gentlemen?
The murders happened roughly. I'm assuming that James Owen was correct, that the shot that he heard was the shot into David Faraday's head. That would have been circa, let's say 11:10.
Why would it be that shot, though? Is there not a shot through the back upper fender before that?
No, because those were the shots into, as I say, the Zodiacs intentionally fired X number of shots at each venue. So, for example, at Lake Herman Road, it was 10 shots. At Blue Rock Springs Park, it was 9 shots. And unfortunately, they ran into a problem, which is that at Lake Herman Road, they only needed 6 shots to kill the 2 teenagers. So they still had to fire 4 more shots. They fired 2 of them into the car. I think that was intentional to give the impression that they had herded the kids out of the car. But then they still had to fire 2 more shots into the air so that they had fired 10 shots. At Blue Rock Springs Park, they fired 9 shots. Unfortunately, Michael Majo. I hope I'm not going to get any Magoo posts now.
It's Mayhew, but
we'll
it's all good.
Well, we'll say Mayo. The movie says Mayo. I've heard police say Majo. And as I said, Roy Conway, when I talked to him back in 1991, he didn't even pronounce Vallejo that way. Seriously, he called it Valley Joe. Okay, I'm not making that up. That's what he said.
No, I get it.
But you know what I'm saying is that I forget what I was saying now. But
it's all good. So you're going through the number of intentional number of shots at Lake Herman Road.
Michael Majo jumped into the back seat because the Zodiac, the killer, actually fired at Darlene first.
Farron, yeah.
Jumped into as Richard Grinnell says correctly. So he jumps into the back seat, and when he's fired his 9th shot, he still hasn't killed Michael, but there isn't anything he can do about it because he's limited to 9 shots. Again, the idea was that they were going to fire 20 shots and stab the victim 17 times. That's what the whole point of Z340 was.
Sure. So Blue Rock Springs aside, I mean, the idea there is that, he went back and reloaded. So, again, I think there's still more.
I don't think that's what happened. I think what happened was when Michael jumped into the back seat, the Zodiac took a step backwards to kind of like reassess the situation. And what happened was, because his profile disappeared from the window, Michael assumed that he had gone back to his car. But I think he just stepped back. And the reason to believe that is that there were 2 shell casings on the right rear floorboard, which means that he actually stuck the gun into the car, because the shell casings ended up inside the car, which would only happen if he had stuck the gun into the car. And they ended up in like I said, on the right rear floorboard. If he was still firing from outside the car, that wouldn't have happened.
Sure. Richie's heading to bed. It's getting late out there. Peace, Rich. Let's see. So here, let's go back to
it's 5 hours later so it's 8:19 p.m. here, so it'd be after 1 o'clock in Coventry.
So Betty and David approximately found at 11:20, and then PETA saying he gets on site first. It's who? PETA, Lundblad, and Butterbach. Is that can you break down in what order law enforcement arrives to the scene?
Stella Medeiros drives by at 11:15. She sees the kids lying on the ground, and she drives at 60, 70 miles per hour. She gets to the cops at the Enco station, as Graysmith says, approximately 11:19 p.m. She has to explain to the cops what she saw, and then the cops make their way back to the turnout. That would have been 11:25 p.m. Now remember, the Zodiacs assumed when they left the car door open, they left the passenger side car door open, and they turned because the car hadn't even been on. They turned the car engine on. They reclined the seat to 45 degrees, and they assumed that by the time the cops came by, the motor would be hot enough that the cops would assume that the engine had been on while they were necking inside. But
I don't like that one, Ray. I mean, because you're taking the risk of putting prints all over the victim's vehicle. Come on, it's too sloppy.
Wear gloves.
I guess. I mean, gloves gets around it. But the other problem with the 2 Zodiacs is the angle of the shots being fired is consistent with one shooter. Only 22 rounds. So what's the other Zodiac doing?
Well, again, you have the problem in the turnout of Betty Lou having GSR on her back when David was shot with a contact wound. We assume that David was shot first. So if you shoot David and David falls perpendicular to the car, David was almost 6 feet tall. How is Betty Lou still close enough to get gunshot residue on herself? She would only be that close if somebody else was holding her. Okay. And as I said, the reason that I believe that William Crowe changed his story from two killers to one, from two people in the car to one, is that he realized that it was probably the Zodiac. So he thought, well, it's probably just one guy then. Okay. But it wasn't one guy, it was two guys. And there were at least two people, probably three people in the turnout. And that would explain how they can get GSR on Betty Lou and still shoot David with a contact wound in the back of his left ear, actually in his earlobe. Okay, so, and as I was trying to say before, when they assumed that the engine would be hot enough by the time the police showed up, that there wouldn't be a problem with the motor being lukewarm, but it was lukewarm because they had just turned the engine on. If they had been necking there for the last half hour, that engine would have been red hot, you know?
Yeah, if the engine was on. Let's see. So we had
And
my
we
man.
also know, by the way, we also know that you can have it in either direction. On the one hand, if you assume that they were necking inside the car without the engine on, then the windows in the car should have been frosted over because their breath would have, you know, coalesced on the inside of the, you know, windshield and the windows. On the other hand, if they did have the heater on the entire time, and to do that they'd have had to have the engine on, the engine wouldn't have been lukewarm. So the most likely scenario is the one I suggest, which is the Zodiacs just drove the Faraday Rambler into the turnout, parked it, went back across the field, so they've got the Rambler now parked on the east side of the turnout. Now they walk back across the field and they get into the white Chevy Impala with the victims and drive to the turnout. They park so that the two cars are next to each other. And they wait for James Owen to drive by. Then they pull the kids out, shoot them, leave them for dead basically, and drive out of there. Okay. That makes sense. As I said, you can't create a case theory for, any sequence on the road that night, which actually makes sense. And,
Yeah, I can agree with that. Inconsistent with wearing the gloves, though. I mean, we know Zodiac wore gloves at Berryessa, but he took them off when he wrote on Brian's door, and they got a print from that. He also didn't wear gloves writing the letters. He didn't seem to wear gloves in Paul Stein's cab. So it's a little bit.
I think the fingerprints were intentionally left at Presidio Heights because they wanted to be able to create an investigative lead, because if you don't have one, then there's no place to go with a case. So I think what UPenn thought was the case was more likely to die out if there wasn't some sort of, this was before DNA, obviously, but if they hadn't left fingerprints, at some point the case would have turned into a cold case and not been as infamous as it was. If you leave fingerprints there, then you give people hope that the case can actually be solved.
And
So
how do
I think
you reconcile that with not leaving fingerprints that are going to get like connected back to yourself as the perpetrator? You know what I mean?
well, if you've never been booked, and you, as I said, you have to remember, all of this was before genetic genealogy.
Yeah, APHIS as well.
And so, if you know that there isn't any way that they can connect your prints with a database, then you're free to leave them there, knowing that they actually can't. You're
Yeah,
not
it's
in
not
the system.
easily tracked. Evan, my guy, what up? It was actually 11 p.m. December 20th, so it'd be going into the morning of December 21st.
Good luck getting Tom Voigt on there, by the way.
On where? Oh, on that?
Anywhere.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, he could have been a rejected guy in a relationship.
Or it could have been a conceptual art project. Okay.
Yeah,
That's what
Ray,
it actually was.
Stay focused, Ray. Stay focused.
what-
Betty's coat being in the back seat. Yeah, I mean, okay. So what you were saying about Betty being held, I don't know. I got to push back on it, Ray. I'm not sure I buy it, because if they're both forced out of the passenger side door, so you assume Betty came out first in order to make room for David. Betty could have been held there, putting a pistol to David's head, firing it behind his ear. That takes 1 second of action. She can still be standing close enough to get the gunshot residue on her just from standing next to that shot.
Well, again, I can't disprove. So I mean, especially when you're dealing with ballistics. I don't know if you've ever read. There's one of the JFK books is called Mortal Error by forget the guy's name. But one of the things he talks about is the ballistics in the JFK assassination, and the experts point out that with ballistics, it's very hard to nail anything down, because what you're dealing with is bullets flying at whatever 2,000 miles per second, and they're going all over the place, and so it's hard to say anything absolutely definitive. I'm just saying it seems to me very unlikely that they would have shot David with a contact wound, and Betty Lou would still have been close enough. Betty Lou would not have run off. She would have been the distance for GSR would have been like 3 to 5 feet. Okay, so that certainly seems unlikely. And remember, there are other problems with the crime scene. There's the fact that Betty Lou, David still had the ring. Betty Lou was her bladder was full. They were out at a place where they were already past their curfew. Mike Butterfield has pointed that out. He says,
sure,
it's really strange that somebody like David Faraday would have had Betty Lou Jensen way out in this unincorporated section of a road, 10 minutes past his curfew. I mean, it doesn't make any sense, particularly if you go back and you read the police report. Betty Lou's sister, whose name escapes me at the moment, but her sister got pregnant. I think it was Melody Joe or something like that. Her sister got pregnant when she was in a car necking with some guy, and they were very protective of Betty Lou as a result of that. And if you read the police report, I think it's Melody Joe actually.
Yeah,
Melody Joe tells David what to do and what not to do. If you want to go out with Betty Lou, here's how to do it. You're going to have to stay on the good side of our parents, because they were freaked out when I became pregnant. Okay. So they were basically on their best behavior that night. Now, if you come back and ask me, well, wait a minute, David lied to their parents. He told them they were going to Christmas event, and that isn't true. Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, I really can't explain that, but for the most part, I think they were trying to be careful and, you know, doing stuff that would look good to her parents. But
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, we could get into some of the ballistics. So the shell, the pellet that came from David's head, I think that was it was in such bad condition that it couldn't be corroborated. But basically, what I was coming to is if he pulls out David, shoots him. Druser said he thought they had them facing the car. I think the killer had them both facing the car. So she gets the residue on her. She runs. I mean, here's So I've been to the area, Ray, and
right.
it's very small now. It's
You're
smaller
good.
than.
You're a good researcher, Ross.
Wow, look at that, guys. I thought I was just a hobbyist, Ray.
I've told
Did
them
you go
that.
back on that? Can we get a donation for Ray changing over?
By the way, what's going to happen is I'm 74 years old now, and when I'm on my deathbed and I'm trying to decide what my last words are, my guess is Ross is going to stick his head into the room and say, "Hey, what about when you called me a bad researcher?" He won't let it go.
No, that he's used the line on me before. It's hilarious.
Did it for like 30 seconds, and I took the post down, but Ross happened to read it. Okay, and now he won't let it go.
No, I let it go a long time ago. You're back on the show. Clearly, you're back on the show.
Seconds ago.
I didn't bring it up. So anyway, so this is my thing. So if he has David there, headshot, and then she's standing right there, that only leaves the space between the two cars that Betty runs through. So she still has to run.
Plus, you can always say she was just frozen in fear. That's what.
Sure. No. Yeah. Without a doubt. But my point is, between the moment between frozen in fear, stuck between the two cars, David's body on the ground, the killer standing in front of her, she still either runs past or he tells her to run past, because the only thing left at this moment is why he doesn't headshot Betty the way he headshotted David. He obviously did that to get rid of the male threat, right. And this is another reason why I don't buy the rifle at Lake Herman Road, because if he puts a rifle to David's ear, what's stopping David from just swatting the rifle away and missing the shot altogether? You know what I mean? So it makes a lot more sense with a pistol, but she still has to run between the two cars around David's body and past the killer. I think that's something that a lot of people miss. That's kind of what I learned from going there. And so back turned, running back out to the street, back down the road or whatever, and taking those five shots to the back,
Well,
go ahead.
The other thing is that all 5 shots were hit her in the back, which means that she had already turned around and was running away from the shooter when he first shot her. The first shot is the one in the in
upper shoulder,
upper right of her back. So when you're turning around and you're running from somebody with a gun, do you like swivel in place? No. You would take like a giant step to the left and then another giant step, away from the shooter. So she should have been, even allowing for the possibility that she froze, by the time she clearly had time to turn away from the shooter before his first shot, and yet she still had GSR. And like I said, you wouldn't swivel in place. You'd take like a giant step to the left and then a giant step away from him. That should have been enough to get her out of GSR range. Okay. Now, again, I can't insist on that for the reasons I just pointed out. But when you add that to all the other stuff, then it seems like the ballistics don't particularly make sense.
100%, I agree, because she could also get the GSR on her from that. It's only a 22, she could have taken that in the shoulder as she's running past him. That one could be first, and then with her back turned, the remaining 4 or 5 in her back with her back turned. You know what I mean? So it could be either of those shots.
A 22 is the preferred weapon of mafia hitmen, basically, because when you shoot somebody in the head with a 22, you don't get an in and out. What happens is the 22 bounces around inside the person's skull and continues to create damage. Okay.
Yeah, it bounces around anywhere in the body.
Yeah, so that's why mob hitmen prefer to use 22s, and basically there wouldn't have been any exit with David's wound. It went in but didn't come out. But that's also true of Paul Stein. There was no exit wound on Paul Stein either.
Yeah, I'm just keeping up with the chat here. Yeah, I mean, I agree with this. So this is basically what I said in episode 5, the Lake Herman ambush guerrilla, which is, watching her think she's getting away and then taking it away from her, because she that's pretty much what I came away with, of her having to run by. Why else would the killer let her run by without stopping her like he just stopped David? You know what I mean? It's obviously intentional. It's pretty much the only option left. Jay White.
Yeah, Melody Job is correct, actually.
Yeah. Then there he is. He wanted to see her run away.
Hold on.
He wanted to watch her gun down. Yeah, I agree. Go ahead.
JTK7IB has shown up, and he says Ray's sword goes higher up than his chin. Okay. Do you ever post about the case, pal? Why don't you try just to completely throw me off? Post something about the case instead of a personal insult. Okay. I realize that 100% of your posts up to this point have been personal insults. Why don't you try an argument? Just like an argument about the Zodiac killer case. Just to completely throw me up. Ray's sword is higher up than his chin.
It's a fair point, Jay. Just
I had oral surgery. Okay, that's
we're being nice. We're being nice today. We're being nice today, Jay. Let me see if I can get something more substantive than that. So now, so the thing about this one, Jay, is it's understanding of like sunglasses like mine on the outside of the hood, and then possibly glasses underneath. So there's nothing really there to indicate a different guy, and also the handwriting on Brian's car door that's obviously the same as the Zodiac letters.
By the way, have you been following the Rob Reiner thing?
A little bit, but not that closely.
I almost double majored in psych. I wish I had, because then I'd have another degree. I took all the courses at Pitt back in the early 70s. And the fact is, what Rob Reiner didn't seem to understand was his son was mentally ill. Okay. And his mental illness had nothing to do with his addiction or his, rehab. If you've got a schizophrenic, there's a very good likelihood that person is going to end up killing somebody. Okay.
Good stuff.
Trying to fix his addiction wouldn't do you any good, But
yeah, I hear it. Let's stay. It's an interesting headline. Let's stay on topic, Ray. My friend Pistis Adelphos, could they both been out of the car before the shots were fired? I think that's kind of what Ray leans to, but I don't really think there's any way to know, because it's in the what's it called? The head. Where is that? Where it was called the headband. Have that in my notes somewhere. The fender, the head fender, upper fender, something like that. Anyway, the car header. The car was.
It's called the header.
The header, yeah. The car was stripped anyway, and then early on there was, of course, that rumor of the 38, what they thought was the 38 in the header, but that ended up being a 22 as well. Druzer, Andrew Gray, Ray, do you think the killer had a flashlight taped to the pistol? Obviously, there's the whole pen light theory of Zodiac's letter.
Yes.
The whole 22 scramble your brains and loading crap, pretty much all rounds tumble through the brain or the body when hit. I don't know where people get these ideas from. I mean, I kind of see Ray's point. I mean, it's a little bit inconsistent, but
it isn't my point. It's like, well, all I've heard from reading Wise Guy and all those kind of books is that the mob prefers 22s. Now maybe I'm wrong about that, but
no, I'm Sicilian, Ray, so you're preaching to the choir. I've read all the same things you have, but
well, I went to parochial school. I went to parochial school, so I some of my classmates grew up to be actual mafias, so
yeah, no, I'm from Boston and I'm Sicilian, so I probably know. I'm not going to say too much. Yeah, I'm not going to say too much on camera. Let's see. The headliner. Yeah, that's basically what I was shooting at, so to speak. So we were talking about the 22s. Did he drive to any locations? Anyone see him in a car? I mean, the William Crow story we were talking about. Mike Mayhew saw him drive away, but he got his face shot up, so he might be a little bit struggling there. I mean, I'm trying to think of what else we didn't cover. I mean, I guess really just ballistics. We could talk about this is Grinnell from the police report. 5 Super X.22 cartridge cases found at the scene by coroner Dan Horan were turned over to the reporting officer of the crime scene. 4 Super X cartridge cases found at the scene by Sergeant Silva turned over to RO at the mortuary. These casings, along with the bullets, were sent to the Department of Justice, Bureau of Criminal Identification and Investigation, where they're examined. This document, again, details these 9 casings, only an itemized list. 1 bullet from Faraday's body, 2 bullets from Jensen's body, 3 a bullet found in the panties of Jensen, 4 5 Super X 22 cartridge cases found at the scene, 4 Super X cases found at the scene by Silva, 1 bullet found on top of the 61 Rambler, 1 bullet found on the floor mat and left side of the storage area of the 61 Rambler, 1 bullet found on the ground near Jensen's body, and the purple dress of Jensen was the evidence. But it's the casing of the is the case of the missing shell. The other thing I would put up, Ray, is that Crimes of the Century documentary where that British narrator floats that a Herman Road shell was included in later correspondence. I think it was the Halloween card that they mentioned. Again, this is not mentioned anywhere else but it's just I suppose alternative theory out there.
Well, I was just looking at Drewzer's. I eat lunch in my car in Canada every day. I turn the engine heat on for a while, then I turn it off until I get cold again. Witnesses have them there for an hour, and Betty's coat being in the back seat. Drewzer, here's my suggestion: create a case theory. Do what I do, and put forward a timeline where you're explaining, where and why and where the people were, and put the 2 teenagers in the turnout. Okay. The problem is you can't do it.
So Grinnell's opinion is the Chevy left at 9 and returned at 10 p.m. I mean, I can somewhat buy that, Ray, because of the way
one musical chair. Okay. I could see that. But where the cars are going in and out, the easier explanation is just to say the white Chevy Impala was misidentified as the Rambler. And it's a logical assumption because people knew that the Rambler was found in the turnout when the police showed up.
I mean, what I'm getting at, though, is we have witnesses like Mayhew saying that, Zodiac pulled in and out of Blue Rock Springs. So it doesn't really make that much difference to me if he does it at Lake Herman Road and does it at Blue Rock Springs. And I'm not even saying the Impala is Zodiac, but I'm saying it fits the pattern based off the Blue Rock Springs. That's
the reason that Michael O'Hara pulls out of Blue Rock Springs Park is that when he pulled in behind Darlene and Michael, he looked at his watch and it was already past midnight. And the intent was and then Gareth Penn says this in his book.
Well, let's not name names, Ray. Let's just say the killer and/or Zodiac for legal purposes.
The killer
PXF.
they'd have to charge me first.
That'd be ideal.
The point being that it was already after midnight, and he knew that he was going to claim that the victims were killed on July 4th, so that they've got first, they're fudging to begin with, because December 20th wasn't Christmas. December 25th is Christmas, but he still
No, it's Mayhew. It's Mayhew. Sorry, bud. It's spelled. Yeah, go on.
He still said last Christmas, and the same thing with the July 4th. The shooting of Darlene Ferrin actually occurred probably sometime between 12:05 and 12:10 a.m. on July 5th, but they just insisted it was on the 4th because that's when they wanted to shoot her. No, I don't drive a Buick. I drive a Kia Forte 2023. Great car, by the way.
Let's go. Let me see. Ray Grant is the best because if one person says the wrong thing, all hell could break loose. That's why we brought him back. Blah 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 blah. Not much left. Let me see what else I got. Let's go to Aftermath.
Where's Haran, by the way? I thought you were going to set me up with Haran.
Oh yeah, no, I was coming to that. Ray, do you have anybody that you have a disagreement with in the Zodiac community?
No, I get along with everybody.
Okay. Was there somebody you wanted?
Ross.
Was there somebody you wanted to debate on the debate series?
Despite our very bumpy, initial encounter, Ross and I get along. So, yeah, if you want to set me up with Haran, that's fine.
Okay, we'll see. We'll see if the professor has any interest in the debate. I don't mind the Grant versus Horn. What?
Again, Butterfield has been offered. I offered Butterfield $1,000 up front to debate me, and he wouldn't do it. I offered Dave Aranchek $500 to debate me, and he wouldn't do it. So
Dave is well. He's well up there in the community these days. But what's the topic of your Haran debate? Is it just the overall case, or
just to attack his theory? Yeah.
Okay, I'm sure he would be up for that. These are actually the Tyler Durden glasses from Fight Club.
JTK7IB has posted again, and he posts Ray rides a tricycle. Once again, he cannot possibly post about the Zodiac Killer, even though these are Zodiac Killer videos. He has to post an insult.
That was actually a funny one. You got to give it to him, and you can always just let it pass. You can always just let it pass, right? I'm wearing the I love Donnie Brasco, but I'm wearing the Tyler Durdens from Fight Club. I
have all the Donnie Brasco books, by the way.
Ooh, love Donnie Brasco. I wonder if the match is the one on the Prince in the cab. Are you referring, which phone booth are you referring to? Are you referring to the Blue Rock Springs phone booth? Are you referring to the Napa phone booth? Because there's actually...
Well, the Napa one is the one that supposedly has the palm print on
it. Shout out to Ryan. This is absolutely hilarious. No. We covered the raccoon hunters earlier, and Ray was happy that I said that Frank, what's his William Connolly and Frank Gasser were raccoon hunters. See, I got it.
Don't get Ross all worked up.
Oh man. I don't know what part are you referring to? The Julian 9/11. He's talking about. All right, you guys are getting out of control over there. Let's go back to the notes. Don't get sucked into there, right? It's getting crazy in there. So we were talking about the evidence. I don't want to give away too much of my episode here, but maybe we'll just do. What else do I have in the aftermath? So the car's motor and radiator was still warm. Ray got that right. Jensen's purse had a $5 bill, so not robbery or not seemingly robbery.
I don't think Jensen's purse had a $5 bill.
Oh yeah,
I think what David Faraday had was 85 cents. If she had $5, that's news to me.
I heard Jensen's purse was found nearby containing a $5 bill. Ballistics are very difficult. As I told you guys, the copper coating and barrel type could only be used to rule firearms out. Even if the murder weapon was recovered, there would be a lot of difficulty to verify. Had the car stripped,
as I said, that's right. Maltino says, Ray, do you think your last surviving suspect will confess or leave something behind him when he passes away? Well, there are two remaining Zodiacs. Ross doesn't want me to name them, so but the question
That's
is,
true if you didn't.
yeah, are they going to, just ride off into the sunset, or are they going to leave something behind? And I don't know. But see, you have to eliminate certain suspects, like, for example, Mike Rodelli's suspect, Shel Cavalier, who is dead, and he didn't leave anything behind. There wasn't any, as far as we know, there wasn't any Lake Berryessa hood or anything like that. So how do you? I would say to Mike Rodelli, how do you prove that he's the Zodiac? His prints don't match what was left in Presidio Heights, and he's dead now, and nothing was left behind. So whether he's the Zodiac or not, no one can establish that. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's not bad. I like it. Jay Wise, Rodelli's my man, though. Ray, why the fascination with Zodiac? What brought you in? Big news at the time. Lived in San Fran area.
I hesitate to mention this because then people assume I'm bragging about the fact that I was in Mensa. I was only in Mensa for 4 years. I was in American Mensa from 84 to 88. And if you go to my book, you will see there's a cover of the Mensa Bulletin of an article that was in the Mensa Bulletin about the Zodiac killer case. And it was written by one of my suspects. And I became fascinated by the idea of a conceptual art project. Remember, there are conceptual art projects that are a lot bigger in terms of the amount of trouble that the perpetrators did than the Zodiac killer case. I mean, you can look at something like the gates in Central Park by Christo, where he had like 10,000 gates in Central Park, and he had to set it up with the city. The city of New York said, look, you can go into Central Park and set this thing up, but you can't do any drilling. So everything had to be self-contained. Lord knows how many trucks and volunteers and everything they had to hire. So the conceptual art projects did tend to be very, very elaborate, and they use a lot of them don't make very much sense, really. So
I'm not mad at your conceptual art theory. It's just when you start adding multiple suspects, like we have one guy walking out of Blue Rock Springs with a witness, Ray. We have one guy walking in and out of Lake Berryessa with a witness, unless you think that lurker is somehow related, which I'm not sure he is.
Yeah, I think what happened was they came so close to being, if Stella Medeiros drives by like a minute earlier than she did, she would have seen the Zodiacs in the turnout. And I think as a result of that, they said, you know what? We have to do this like as a one-person deal. And I think what happened with the killer, like driving back out of the lot at Blue Rock Springs Park, was he said, well, it's after midnight. I can't commit the murder. And then he drove for a block to meet up with his fellow conspirators. And he was told, no, go ahead and shoot Darlene. So that's
sure. Back. But basically, the Robbins kids, one guy walking out of Presidio. So as far as where we have verified witnesses,
one guy was involved. But again, we don't know how many people originally got into the cab.
Sure. I wants me to read. What if the whole time Ray Grant's in his 90s and he's actually the Zodiac, and that's why the book is called Zodiac Solved, because he is Zodiac. Purple crying face. But I don't think that really matches up, Ray. You would have had to be.
Yeah, you're beating this purple crying face thing to the, into the ground. I mean, you need to move on from that. Ray Grant's in the 90s. Well, you know what? They won't. They wouldn't be able to get me because my fingerprints don't match what was left at Presidio Heights. Plus, I think I can account for my whereabouts for most of the Zodiac events. I was living in another part of the country. So
Where were you on Thanksgiving 1971? Were you taking a flight from Portland to Seattle? Because my friend Jay here thinks that you might be in contention for DB Cooper.
I wouldn't know. Well, I didn't.
You know,
As I've said, the problem with DB Cooper is what I believe happened was he ended up losing the money when he made the jump, because people don't realize how heavy paper is, and it would have been very easy, and it's also consistent with what they found, where they found like bills in the one of the riverbeds that
yeah.
somehow when he was making his descent, he and the ransom money became separated.
Oh yeah,
And-
that's possible.
Yeah.
That's very possible. Let's stay on point. No Cooper today, lads. Still can't get over if someone with such a French-inspired name mispronounced his own name. Does he pronounce his name Michael? But think about this: Michael Renaud Majot. I don't. Once I started thinking about that, it makes a lot more sense that it's Michael Renaud Mayhew. Renaud Majot sounds like some Ronald McDonald to me. You know what I mean? Anyway, I'm thinking. I mean, we've had our boy Ray on for a while, guys. Maybe I'll just do a quick bio of Betty and David. We'll kind of say rest in peace, unless you have anything else you want to add, Ray, before we move on. Ray?
Yeah, I'm just reading. I'm getting to the end of the chat. Okay,
Yeah,
so is that it then?
Yeah, for the most part, I was just going to do a quick, a little bit more background on the victims, just make them about the deceased.
Nobody
David
has
Arthur
any more questions on the Lake Herman Road timeline?
Yeah, no, I mean, we'll take more questions if you guys have them for Ray. I mean, this guy said that you're the Axeman of New Orleans, but wasn't that like 1918 or something, or 18 whatever? That was like way back in the day.
Well, the funny thing is, I think the Zodiac killer was influenced by killers such as the who was the guy down in Arkansas? The
Texarkana Moonlight Phantom, yeah, Moonlight Murders.
I think he was influenced by those people, but he wasn't the same guy.
No, I agree. I mean, because he would have to be, that was 46, so you'd have to be going from 46 to 68 to 69.
I think
David Arthur. Go ahead.
I think it's pretty clear that he was influenced by the killer of Domingos and Edwards too. I mean, Lake Berryessa, there are too many similarities.
I agree. If it's not the same killer.
Yeah. I don't think it was the same guy. But...
Well, there's no way to know, but it's very close to the MO.
Yeah, but the guy at Lake Berryessa was a lot more organized. And that is how the FBI
the second time, I mean, it makes sense that you could have tried that, messed it up, and then came more prepared. I mean, obviously, it seemed like he made adaptations to Blue Rock Springs from Lake Herman Road, right? He came with a 9mm, blah 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 blah. Still managed to miss Rayhu, and I know, right? This is I mean, so as Ray was saying, the movie actually floats both. He when I think is it Paul Avery the first time says I think it's Mayhew, and then for the rest of the movie they call him Majot. So whatever. I asked Tom. You know what I mean? And Tom gave me the info. So if we all,
you asked Tom Boyd?
Yeah, I asked Tom Boyd.
Well, he talks to you more than he talks to me. So
no, he said that you're the man that needs to be interviewed, and he gave you high esteemed on the forum. So despite some,
yeah, but he didn't volunteer to come on your show, I guess.
No, not yet. He's been offered handsome rewards, but we'll keep working on it.
I think it's gotten real old for Tom. I think it was old for him like about 15 years ago. And he's just, when you're getting emails.
Oh, yeah, I know. He's done it many, many times, I know. But we still need to get him on here because Zodiac Files is where the official conversations happen. What does Ray think about the Zodiac movie?
I liked some of David Fincher's stuff. I'm a big fan of the Game movie.
Yeah, Fincher's amazing. I love the guy.
Some of his stuff, but it's basically just a true crime movie.
Yeah, the problem with the movie is it's like it's too heavily reliant on Yellow Cover by Graysmith. apparently they pulled in a lot of stuff from Zodiac Unmasked, which I haven't read because after I read the first one, I was kind of graysmithed out. But I will say I did. Good.
I'm in Zodiac Unmasked. So.
Oh, nice. I didn't know that. I did. What did you say?
I'm mentioned on page 421 as Zodiac Unmasked. I mentioned in Time 17. I mentioned in Klaus Schmidt's book, Nistu's New Zaken, which is Dave Aranchik pointed out. But I am in Graysmith. I'm in Graysmith's second book.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I didn't read that one, but I did read Shooting Zodiac about how Fincher, the producers and the writers, got the movie made, and that's I'd say that's probably the Graysmith because it's the least like Graysmithy one. It just focuses on getting the movie made and them doing research and stuff like that. So let's do these little auto bios of David and Betty. David Arthur Faraday, age 17, born 10/2/51, San Rafael, Marin County. Betty Lou Jensen, age 16, born 7/22/52, Hawkins, Colorado. Betty Lou Jensen, 60, just said, were attacked on the cold night of December 20th, 68. The couple was on a date when they were senselessly murdered. Both of the victims lived in Vallejo, and I know that's been argued, but, you know, it's all good. Betty Lou was a native of Colorado. She was a junior at Hogan High and an honor student. She was a Grand Royal Bride Primavera Council 132 Pythian Sunshine Girls, which, according to their website, the purpose of the Sunshine Girls is to lay a foundation of purity, service, and usefulness in all things that help to make the lives of those around us happier and the world a better place to live in. She was also a member of the Christian Science Church. David Faraday was a native of San Rafael, California, senior at Vallejo High, was active in school government, and he was on the wrestling team. He was an Eagle Scout, member of Explorer Post 209. He had recently won the God and Country Award, which is the highest honor in scouting. He was the Lodge Chief of Order of the Arrow in Solano, Napa, and Lake County. He was a member of the Knights of Dunamis, which was an organization for Eagle Scouts that was devoted to service. He was also a member of the staff of the Silverado Area Council, another scouting group, and he was an active member of the Presbyterian Church. He had 2 brothers and a sister. Both were the epitome of good all-American kids. According to the police report, they had met a week earlier at a church function where they were both on a committee to decorate the hall at the Pythian Castle for a music festival. Apparently, it was love at first sight, so much so that David started cutting classes to spend time with her, and every day after school, he would drive her home. Betty Lou had never dated, and upon the advice of her sister, she invited David to her home to meet her parents. David arrived at her home at 8 p.m., and after being introduced to her parents, they left the house to attend the festival at Hogan High School, 3 blocks from her home, and then to a house party afterwards. They were supposed to be back home by 11. They apparently had other ideas for the evening. Her parents found out later that there was no festival at Hogan High School, and they didn't show up at any of the known parties happening that night. Instead, the couple went to see her best friend, Sharon. They got there around 8:30 and talked about possibly going to San Francisco. As Ray said, they left Sharon's house at 9, but didn't tell her what their plans were. And a lot of that comes from shadowofthezodiac.com. Shout out to those guys. That is Destry Hines' son there, or Harvey Hines' son. Destry Hines is that website. What else came in? Is it possible his wife helped him? I don't know. Ray, it could have been 2 people. Yeah, I mean, that's what I was saying, though. The ballistics don't really indicate 2 people at Lake Herman Road, but I mean, I guess if you want to stretch, you can put a driver. I mean, I don't really like how William Crowe goes back on the 2 people, Ray. It kind of makes it weird. Also, like, to drag race someone or try to chase them down with 2 people, it's like now you have like the extra weight in the car, you know what I mean? So it sounds a little bit weird. But I mean, we could get more into the William Crowe stuff of how the story changed.
Well, again, I don't think, first of all, some of what was in the original police report apparently was a problem with what the responding officer was saying, because Crowe has said, if you look at the police report, it says a blue Valiant.
And, right, I said that in my notes, yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
And,
he said
Crowe said, I never said a Valiant, and I never said it was blue. And he said it was actually a light-colored Chevrolet. And the fact is, the other thing you notice about Crowe's statements is that at no time, either in the original police report or in his emails to Howard Davis, does Crowe ever mention what the sports car was. Okay? Now, most people who follow the Zodiac aren't obviously or not as old as I am. If you went back into the 1960s, when I was a school guard, I, I had to, the other two guards who were with me used to quiz me on which car was which. We'd be, at the intersection and a car would go by and they'd say, "Okay, Ray, what was that?" And I'd say, "That's a 64 Mustang, or that was a whatever, a Corvair." But the fact is, the ability to identify cars that you saw, on site was a big deal, like back in the 1960s among
Sure.
males. And yet, if you look at Crow's entire, narrative, he never identifies the sports car. He says that his ex-girlfriend had bought this sports car. I think the sports car was probably a Triumph TR3 or TR4 because it would have had like toggle switches, and it's a
For sure.
sports car that was very popular back then. But my point is, part of the problem here is that William Crow was more like me. He wasn't very good as far as like identifying cars, and he couldn't even identify the car that he was driving. So that's part of the reason why he wasn't able to identify the car that he saw, because he just wasn't well versed on car models. So then whoever the responding officer said, "Well, do you think maybe it was a Valiant? Was it like maybe blue?" But
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, that's right.
Crow
On.
later on
I
said
agree with
that neither of those was correct.
Yeah, he just added it to the report. Like, do you think it's this? And yeah, no, for sure. I mean, also, I mean, if the situation was as dire as he explains it in certain versions of the story, how easy is it to like identify the car chasing you in the dark, while you're trying to get away from, you know what I mean? So it's like you got the headlights shining in your rear view, and can you really memorize what, you know what I mean? So at 11, at 10 o'clock at night, have you been to Lake Herman Road, Ray?
No.
So it's like pitch.
I've actually never been to California, so
interesting. So the only canonical site I'd been to up until a while ago was we'll get to it, Molteno. I've been to Riverside. No, I've been to Riverside, but was Presidio Heights was the first one I went to. Then I went back to Lake Herman Road and Blue Rock Springs because they're obviously right down the street from each other, and we shot those both. Now, it's dark out there at night because we went back and we shot at night. I'm not going to tell you guys what we shot until it comes out, but obviously I was there in the summer, so I was there closer to the Blue Rock Springs anniversary being July 4th weekend, so like July 4th, July 5th. So I wasn't there on December 20th. Technically, I wasn't there tonight. Sorry, guys. But it's pretty dark out there, but it's not like as dark as like what Zodiac was saying, that like it's absolutely pitch black and because of the hills and the trees. First of all, it's all fields. It's rolling hills and fields. It's not that many trees. And second of all, if there's moonlight, you could pretty much see everything. So when I was there, it was dark because it's in the middle of nowhere, but it's not like it's like completely pitch black like how it was being described in the Zodiac letters. Now, on a cold December night with low moonlight, sure, it was probably darker than what I saw. I can concede that.
Are there still no street lights?
None. Oh. So it's pretty. I mean, there might be a few, but yeah, I don't recall it. Let's see what your boy Maltino said. Ray and Horan, they both know pretty much everything about the case. So I obviously don't agree with Prof's theory. He's a chill and nice guy to talk to. Yeah, but it might get a little spicy with him and Ray if they start getting.
Well, I'm not going to hold anything back. So.
Whoa.
He wants to go.
Whoa.
I mean, basically, he has set himself up to, to be challenged on any number of things, and
sure.
just as a, just kind of like a preview here, the question you have to ask yourself is, why would someone who is just writing hoax letters and trying to connect actual murders? Now, the part of the problem is, as soon as one of those murders is solved, your letters go out the window because because they're not going to be able to connect you, one murder with another murder or with the letters. But why would somebody do that? Why would someone go to the tremendous amount of trouble, for example, to construct Z340, where you had to use a transposition scheme and create this thing? I mean, what's in it for you to do that? What could have happened is, Horan keeps talking about how the Zodiac letters were extortion. Well, they may have been extorting the public, but the problem is that the statute of limitations, even for felony extortion in California, is only 7 years. So 7 years after the Zodiac murders stopped, or the letters stopped, whoever Hal Snook or whoever the writer was could have come out and said, "I'm the Zodiac killer," or written a book saying, I was the Zodiac killer by Mr. X, and just given all the solutions for the ciphers and so forth, and made millions of dollars by doing that. But he didn't. Okay. So the question is, what's the motive for somebody to do that? I don't get it.
Yeah, no, I mean, the only problem with like saying the letter is not one of the shooters or stabbers is Brian Hartnell's door, because the handwriting matches. So
there are all kinds of reasons to dismiss what Iran is saying, but I'm just pointing out his entire theory doesn't make any sense, because you would have to. I can't even imagine what were you trying to was the writer trying to get even with law enforcement for some reason? But then even if you were trying to do that, why wouldn't you make like some easy money by there's a do you I don't know.
There's some kind of law that I read science fiction, yeah.
Well, have you ever heard of Alan Norse? Alan Norse is a sci-fi writer, and he was also a doctor. And when he got out of medical school, he didn't want to publicize the fact that he was a doctor on the side. So he wrote a book called Intern, which is about his first year out of medical school. And he was like interned by Dr. X. Okay. And that's what whoever Hal Snook or whoever did the Zodiac thing could have done that. I was the Zodiac killer by Mr. X, and I'm like I said, I'm sure that book would have sold.
There's some sort of law on the books now, though. Like maybe it wasn't then in the late '60s, but that you can't profit from any kind of crime.
That's only the killer. That's only a killer.
Sure. Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm working on it, Cloud. It's not as easy as you think, but as we discussed last time, David's probably the busiest guy in the community, unfortunately, but we'll keep working on it. So you actually interviewed a few of the primaries, Ed, right? Didn't you did you talk to Bud Kelly? And I thought you interviewed some people at Riverside. Just let them know some of the primary interviews you did. And
I talked to let me see. Part of what you have to remember is that whatever research I did had to do with the Penn O'Hare angle. So that, for example, I talked to Roy Conway and George Baywart back in '91. I talked to Fred Shirasago, who is the head of the Zodiac investigation in California. I got Fred on the phone back in 1990, and the first words out of his mouth were, "I know who this is." Now, I didn't even tell him. I didn't even tell him who I was. And he gets on the phone with me. He says, "Don't tell me. I know who it is." And Harry Phillips, who did the ABC Primetime Live Zodiac thing, that was the DNA show back in October 2002. He said the same thing. He said, I sent him a letter, and he called me on the phone. And he said, it was a thrill to get your letter because I already knew who you were. Okay, so, and all of this was before the internet stuff. So, But I talked to Daryl Bressler, was the head arson investigator for the
Yep.
state of California. And that was for, checking on the Atlas Peak fire, which is mentioned in Time 17. So,
For sure.
oh,
For
Sandy
sure.
Betts is in Unmasked too. Wow.
Yeah, she was saying you guys had an issue. She was saying you were on her nutcase list.
No,
Maybe. Okay. That seems to be a
no,
misconception,
Sandy. No,
Sandy.
I'm a big fan of Sandy. So it's I don't know why she thinks that. I was putting people on ignore when I was on Tom's board, and
Mm,
I was announcing time. Sandy may
mhm.
have gotten the impression I had her on ignore, but I didn't. But see, part of the problem is if you put people on ignore and then other people are quoting the people that you have ignore, the only way that you can keep from reading their posts is to put the people who are quoting them on ignore. So I may have temporarily
Gotcha.
put Sandy on ignore because she was quoting, people like Craigle and forget who else was on there.
Well, Craigle's my boy, so let's
Well,
leave him out of it. But Officer Bawart's impressive.
I
He's all
thought
up in shooting Zodiac.
I thought Druser was your boy.
Drewzer's my guy. Craigle's my guy. Dion, Rodelli. I'm pretty. I'm more of a bridge builder. I haven't had too many scuffles. But I'm down for the debate series. You know what I mean? We just got to find the right opponent. But yeah, Bawart's definitely impressive. He's all up in shooting Zodiac. So this is the Gray Smith that I tend to recommend if you guys are interested in how like the movie was created and what sort of research Fincher did. From everyone from Don Cheney to all the reporting officers to David Toschi, you know what I mean? They pretty much talked to everybody while they were creating the notes of the film, which was super interesting.
I see where Ed Edwards says, he says that's some Boffo logic there. I don't know what I said that he's talking about. But Ed, all you have to do is do what Richard Grinnell can't do, what Craigle can't do, what none of my opponents can do, which is put together a case theory of any Riverside or Lake Herman Road or any of the Zodiac events. Okay, a case theory is what a prosecutor does, where he says, "We have this guy is our defendant. We believe that he did such and such at 9 o'clock. Then he went here at 9:30," and they create a narrative. Okay, and that's the idea. All you have to do is put one of those together. But the problem is that people like um, Richard Grinnell and Craigle can't do that. And I keep telling them, go ahead and go ahead and put one together, and I will respect you a lot more when you do that.
Well, Craigle can definitely do that because he's been doing some great work on the fingerprints and Riverside. So, but
Craigle is the king of taking taking typos and creating disinformation out of it. In the Riverside paper, they said that Joseph Bates had called Stephanie Gutman at 7 p.m. the night of Sherry's murder. Well, he wouldn't have had any reason to do that because he had already talked to her at 5:20, and an hour and a half before that. Plus, we know that he didn't drive back to his house. He didn't drive to the library, and he didn't get back to 4195 via San Jose until after midnight that night. So why would he call Stephanie Gutman at 7 p.m.? What that actually is a typo. What the newspaper meant to say is he called her at 7 a.m., which would have been after he talked to the police and told them that Sherry was missing. But Craigle can't put two and two together and get four. What he does is he assumes that the 7 p.m. is correct. And that's Craigle. Quentin says Mensa is a club that has very difficult qualifications to achieve general knowledge. I was actually a recruiter for Mensa, And it's just you need certain scores on like the SAT and so forth. And that's enough to get you into the club if you want.
Yeah, I didn't score very high on the SAT, but I did get all A's in my bachelor's and master's. So with that, guys, I think we're going to shut it down. Craigle, I'm sure you'll make your way on tomorrow, or and you can make your rebuttal in the comment section, and we'll reach out to Horan and see if we can get that debate series rolling. Appreciate the Riverside stuff, Ray, but let's stick to Lake Herman Road because today is December 20th, so we want to make sure, rest in peace to David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen. The only thing we really didn't mention is the alternate theory of those kind of random heister guys shooting Betty and David for target practice. It's not really a theory I subscribe to, but obviously it gets floated later on down the line. So I'm sure we'll be hearing more about that when my episode 5 drops, the Lake Herman Road ambush. You want to let them know where to find you, Ray, over on your channel? I don't know if you have a website or.
Well, if you watch No Country for Old Men, one of the things that you learn is any time that there's a shooting that involves drugs, you have one or two things happening. Usually both things. You either have a lot of money or a lot of drugs. There were no drugs at either of the crime scenes in Vallejo. David had 85 cents on him. Now, if Betty Lou had a $5 bill in her purse, that's news to me. Darlene Farron had 13 cents on her. Okay. So if you have no drugs and you have no money, why were they getting shot? I don't get it. And obviously, they also weren't police informants because the police wouldn't send somebody to set up a purchase like that and have them not have any money on them.
And have them both be underage. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, a lot of what Horan says just doesn't make any sense.
No, 100%. So you don't subscribe to the drug burn theory at the cottage and as well as the simultaneous Hell's Angel bust at the Hell's Angels headquarters, which is what, downtown Vallejo?
I'm sure there was a decent amount of the drug of the general drug when I was a teenager. The drug that people were taking, this was like long before cocaine was big. And the drug that people were taking, if you were hardcore, maybe you were taking heroin. But most recreational use was just pot,
The cannabis plant, aka grass. All right, gentlemen, I think we'll shut it down. Of course, I did mention the automatic rifle. That's what Lundblad and Butterbach were looking into. They apparently aggressively interrogated Sharon and Betty's friends,
right.
Ray, insisting that it was the drug connection, and that's because they had nothing.
And that's probably why Sharon didn't tell the police that, I was challenged by Richard saying, well, why didn't she bring all this up to the police, about David going to Blue Rock Springs Park and so forth. And the reason for it is that the police were getting them into the interrogation room and shouting in their faces because they had such a violent murder scene. The police assumed it was drug related. So
yeah, they needed an explanation for sure, and they just didn't have any leads. So yeah, I think that's a good place for us to go out, guys. Ray, your drops. Send everybody over to your channel. And do you have a site, or do you want people to just get the book on Amazon?
If you want to go to my YouTube channel, all you have to do is go on YouTube and type in Ray Grant Zodiac. It'll take you right to the channel. I think I already showed. This is my new novel, Clockwork JFK. I will be coming out. My next novel will be Clockwork AI, where the character goes into the future. And I'm an AI doomer, so it'll be about, various AI doom scenarios.
Yeah, I'm a big JFK guy. I'll talk to you offline about that sometime. Thank you. Appreciate you joining.
The book? Oh, you won't read the ebook version, I guess.
No, you can shoot it over. I'll put it in my backlog. We'll figure it out. But yeah, I'm a big JFK guy for sure. Little known secret about me. But Ray, thanks for joining us.
I'll send it to your email and you can just get it at Amazon.
Shoot it over, man. Appreciate you. Thanks for joining.
You are in America, right?
I'm in California, Southern California.
Well,
That's why my
like
first
Amazon,
4 episodes were in
Amazon
SoCal.
won't send material if you're not in the country. It's like you know, who was Richard. I couldn't send him an ebook version of my book because he's in Coventry, and Jibber Jabber. Even I tried sending him a copy of the book, but he's also in the UK. So
the UK guys, Jibby's my guy. Good stuff, Ray. Well, we'll see about you getting back. We'll see how the schedule looks for that debate series in the new year. And appreciate you coming back, ladies and gentlemen. Friend of the channel, Ray Grant. His channel link is below in the description, so you guys can go pop over to Ray, give him some subs. Good breakdowns of Lake Herman Road and other canonicals, timelines. What else you've done over there, Ray? Good stuff, my friend.
Well, get over the squirrel hunters, Ross.
It wasn't the squirrels hunters. It was not. I believe the actual comment was not a serious researcher, but you said I was a serious, researcher this episode, so you fixed it. So we're all good. No complaints for me.
Maybe, like I said, maybe by the time I pass away, Ross will be over that. How long?
I've been over it.
Yeah. No, but you brought it up tonight again. So
no. I was just making a joke. I brought up something else. It was you that connected to that. It's all good. All right, my man. Ray, we'll bring you back. We'll get at you about the debate series, and go subscribe to Ray on his channel.
All right, thanks a lot, Ross.
Talk to you on the forum, man. Have a good night.
Thanks.
Lake Herman Road anniversary. All right, so that is that, my friends. My light has totally died, so I'm in the shadows here. But shout out to everybody who came through on the chat. And any final questions before I go, guys, because we're going on 2:20. It's been an ill minute. So sub, share, click the join button to get a membership. Episode 5 of the main series, the Lake Herman Road ambush, coming soon, as well as episode 6, the Blue Rock Springs attack. Look out for both of those full-length episodes of the main series, and then that will, of course, only leave 2 episodes of the main series left, which would be Lunatic at Lake Berryessa and Paul Stein, Presidio Heights. So we'll see how all that goes. And if these are really Tyler Durden glasses, bro. I wouldn't lie about that. I was a Fincher fanboy way before Zodiac, bro. I'm a Fight Club guy. I'm a Fincher guy, and yes, these are real Tyler Durdens. But I got them back in the day, so I just kind of been rocking them on the show lately for the new swag. Any other questions about the Z-Files, Lake Herman Road timeline, or anything else going on with the channel? I think we do have one final show of the year next Saturday. That's going to be the good, the bad, and the ugly. Finishing our Dollars trilogy with me and Gaz on the Paradigm Review show, last movie review of the year. Trying to think of anything else going on. I think that's basically that. Then you guys just have to wait on the schedule for the new year for the movie reviews for Paradigm Review show. But obviously we'll be getting Fincher's really him. Otherwise, you guys will be getting episodes 5 and 6 as soon as they're ready. Look out for episode 5 first, because that's the one we're trying to get out on the quick side, and then as soon as that's out, we can start working on episode 6, the Blue Rock Springs attack, in post-production. You guys will get to see everything that we shot on site. I mean, the best way to support that is to join and get a membership. All the channel members are going to get 24-hour access to all the main series episodes, starting with episode 5 and episode 6, 24-hour early access. So you want to click that join button for your membership. There's 3 tiers. It's what is it now? It's Gorilla, Inspector, and Vigilante. Is that what it is? Something like that. I think it's Gorilla, Inspector, and Vigilante are the 3 tiers. There's also the Patreon, where you can go over there and pop over there and check out most of the stuff, most of the posts free. The locked posts would be in-depth stuff I did on the 10th Victim and other films that relate to the Zodiac goes to the movie series. Yeah, I don't know. I'm seeing this more and more. I guess him and Horn would have to be the big showdown for 2026. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, guys, I'm going on 2:15. So if there's no final questions about the channel, the series, Paradigm Review show, Zodiac Files main series, Lake Herman Road timeline, I'm going to keep it moving. Of course, there's of course, there's everything that Craigle and Dion Walker are doing. So you can see some of their stuff on Facebook. They've got the PDFs now about the FBI fingerprint files, and then I think Craigle's got at least one or two about the Riverside fingerprints. Of course, Gorilla Train has his PDF about Lake Herman Road, which I have not checked out yet, sadly, but I'll definitely try to get around to reading that soon. I have some catching up to do, clearly, but I think that's it for me, y'all. Probably going to shut it down and land the plane. So I'll give you guys one more minute for any last final questions on Lake Herman Road timeline, the case, the main series. And if there's near now nada, give Shooting Zodiac a read. I'm not like the big guy to like plug Graysmith, but you know what I mean? If there was, like I said, if there was one that's worth reading and you want to see how they made the movie realistically with kind of interviewing all the primary law enforcement officers, give that one a read, I would say, if you're a big fan of the Zodiac movie by David Fincher, once again, creator of Tyler Durden and Tyler Durden Glasses. All right, guys, I don't see any questions coming in, so I'm going to peace out. Like, sub, share. Of course, you can get your merch. Click the links below. You can check out Ray's channel in the description. I dropped his link. And click the join button for membership. If you want to get a donation in to support Zodiac Files, main series episode 5, the Lake Herman Road ambush, and episode 6, the Blue Rock Springs attack, just make sure you hit me up on email or message me however you can. That's my X tag above there, and just make sure I have your name written down the list. All right, guys, good stuff, good show. Not really any interviews, to be honest with you, scheduled at the time being. Kind of been dealing with a lot on the personal side, so I'm just gonna have to handle that how I gotta handle it. But we will be back in the new year, probably dropping episode 5, and then whatever interviews sound good, or you guys want to put recommendations, put them in the comments below. And with that, I think we are going to jet. Like, sub, share, click the join button, go check out the Patreon. I'm out. Zodiac Files episode 20, the Lake Herman Road timeline. Rest in peace to David Faraday and Betty Lou